So my name is Ruby Gazal. I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you. I am the Associate Dean for Interdisciplinary Studies at Initiatives, and I serve with Dr. Meredith Dye and Jeff Gibson at the Dean's Office. I'm joined by our Executive Assistant, Jen Dix, who is also new to CLA and who is supporting interdisciplinary studies and initiatives, among other things. Dr. Granic, we have here faculty from CLA as well as the College of Education as well that have joined us today. We have a great group of people from diverse backgrounds. If you'll allow me, let me introduce Dr. Granic. It's my pleasure to introduce her. She teaches interdisciplinary literature and writing courses at Benedictine University, where she also serves as the coordinator of the scholars, or as we call it here, honors and writing programs. Trained as a theorist and scholar of Victorian literature and culture, Dr. Granic brings empathy and sympathy to the forefront of her teaching and research, using them as guiding principles to explore connections between identity, power, culture, and social transformation. Her deep commitment to interdisciplinarity has shaped her work inside and outside of the classroom. From hosting an interdisciplinary international conference to engaging in numerous scholarly gatherings focused on collaborative learning. I'm happy to say that I got to meet and co-present with Dr. Granic last summer in the Association of Interdisciplinary Studies Conference in Finland. Today, she will share insights from her course, Agents of Change, which brings together perspectives from sociology, literature, political science, and psychology to help students see how their disciplines can serve as powerful tools for civic engagement and meaningful change. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Maria Granic. Thank you, Maria, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I will put myself on mute, and I'm gonna close my video too, but let me know when you need me to add the things you wanted me to do, okay?
Yes, thank you so much. It is a privilege to speak to you today about how interdisciplinary teaching and learning connect ideas across fields, foster civic responsibility, and prepare students to think critically about real-world challenges. I'm a fervent advocate of student-centered approaches, and throughout my career, I've searched for ways to get them more and more engaged and to make them care about their education and be involved and co-partners in their education. In my early classes, I noticed the tension that I saw that students attended class and tried to remain engaged, and yet sometimes there was a disconnect between them and the material. At Benedictine University, the general education curriculum requires 2 interdisciplinary courses, one at 2000 level, which is grounded in the Catholic and Benedictine intellectual tradition, and one at the 3000 level, rooted in the Catholic social teaching on human dignity and common good. They are writing intensive seminars that are open only to juniors and seniors. So people are encouraged to develop courses, and that's exactly what I did. One of the courses that I developed, so this is the framework under which I developed, is my interdisciplinary course 3304, Agents of Change. And if you don't mind, I will share my screen so you can see some of the information that I am going to present on. Okay. So the course, I developed it to draw diverse students. Our students are highly Hispanic. We have international students from over 20 countries. We have mainly first-generation students, quite a few of them athletes. So I wanted to get them, to engage them into meaningful dialogue about their role in shaping a just and compassionate world. And I will show you toward the end some of the student comments on my evaluations, what they said about this course. So part of my goals today is to go over the pursuit of disciplinarity. The definition I think I should skip because you all know the definition. I did not know to what extent everyone had done interdisciplinary work. I will still make a case for interdisciplinarity. That's my viewpoint. And then I will illustrate parts of my course, Agents of Change. It has 6 units. I won't go in much detail about each of them, but I do have narratives about each of them. If you are interested, I will share with you later. And I chose some of the assignments, and I will go into more details about the assignments and the work that the students do and their satisfaction and their civic engagement locally and globally. So after I show you the references, I would like us to have a brainstorming exercise. We will break up into groups and we'll start doing some interdisciplinary brainstorming. And after that, we will have a Q&A. So to encourage interdisciplinary work, that's my goal, that engages students. So I want us to encourage us to think more and undertake more interdisciplinary work that engages students in active learning, critical and creative thinking. While I have to say I do not perceive interdisciplinarity as the panacea for change, I do value its fostering dynamic relationships between or among disciplines. So if you wouldn't mind, and if you would like to take the poll, the first poll, do you have experience engaging in interdisciplinary teaching or research? And if yes, could you briefly share your interdisciplinary work involved?
Did everyone answer? I have only 14 out of 17. Oh, well, me, you probably, yes, fantastic. Okay,
Okay, good.
okay.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna end the poll to show it. Okay, share results.
Okay, so quite a few have some experience, 20% extensive, which is good, a few limited. Okay, so those of you who have some or extensive experience, would you like to share what kind of work you're involved in? Michael, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. At a previous institution, we had a freshman seminar that was team taught, and the rule to the seminars was that each faculty member had to be from a different discipline. So the one that I did, I'm a political scientist, but I taught a course with someone from the philosophy department and someone from the religious studies department, and we did that multiple times.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. So yes, please, Shannon.
Hi, yeah. I'm in sociology and anthropology, and I had the opportunity, it's been a couple years ago now, to help pilot an interdisciplinary team taught course between anthropology and history. That's it's an initiative. They're being called connections courses. And I don't know that anybody else has picked up the ball, but I can say that the provost office supported paying both instructors for the full 3-hour course. And my understanding has indicated willingness to do that in the future.
Wonderful.
Maybe somebody in the dean's office can clarify that, but it was a great experience. So I really learned a lot.
Good, and I'm sure that the students enjoyed it tremendously, because when they connect things and methodologies, they see much more. So thank you so much. That's wonderful experiences that you created for the students. So I will before I thought I should make the case for interdisciplinarity. I don't need to go over the theories, but quite a few people do multidisciplinarity or transdisciplinarity or cross-disciplinarity. Each of them have pitfalls. Interdisciplinary has its pitfalls too, but sometimes there's not a dialogue between the disciplines, and it's not as hopeful and as productive as it could be. But I would like to go over the term interdisciplinary that emerged out of anxieties surrounding education, particularly in the social sciences in the mid-1920s. And thereafter, it rose rapidly in academia, first at the theoretical rather than the empirical level. And in essence, as Julie Thompson Klein observes, interdisciplinarity signifies any form of dialogue or interaction between two or more disciplines undertaken to solve complex problems and answer questions that cannot be adequately addressed using the method of one discipline. And Berger says that the aim of the interdisciplinary approaches is to develop an integrated solution to complex problems. And as you probably have heard, some scientists in different departments think that their discipline is superior and their methodology is superior, and then that's where interdisciplinary could fall apart. But we can still work around that. So my case for interdisciplinarity is I'm going to use to demonstrate the importance of it, I would like to examine the disaster rooted in the organizational ethics and technical communication in an analysis of the 1986 explosion of the Challenger space shuttle, an event that probably most of us know of. And at first glance, the Challenger disaster appears to be a purely engineering failure. The direct cause was a faulty O-ring seal that failed in cold temperatures, allowing hot gases to ignite the external fuel tank. However, if we focus solely on the material science of the O-ring, we miss the ethical and leadership failures that made the technical disaster possible. If we analyze this event only through aerospace engineering, the solution is to redesign the seal and limit launch temperatures. Would that solve the problem? And we know the answer, of course, is no. So the engineering lens describes what failed, but cannot explain why human beings chose to launch despite knowing the risk. So if we use interdisciplinarity and we use, for example, organizational psychology and management, we see the intense pressure to maintain launch schedules and normalize deviation and the dismissal of or dilution of the engineer's technical warnings by the leadership. If we use communication ethics and rhetoric, we can address the failure of communication and persuasion. The experts were the engineers. They understood the danger, but they failed to communicate the severity of the risk in a persuasive language on both at all hierarchical levels, both the same and higher. So they were unable to prove that the danger. Management used rhetoric to make decision, and they shifted the burden of proof of risk on the engineers rather than risk requiring proof of safety from the decision makers. Sociology of professions can address the ethical collapse. We can analyze the tension between professional duty, the engineer's obligation to public safety, and corporate loyalty, the employee's obligation to the project schedule. So we see that an integration of fields adds more to a problem. So now that we have this example, I would like us to do the second poll and the last one, I promise. Which issue in your discipline, thinking about this example, would be best explored through interdisciplinary collaboration? So any volunteers?
So I'm in the College of Education, and so one of the things I was thinking about was that we're, as classroom teachers and administrators in schools, we're often trying to address complex needs of children and families. And so having input from multiple disciplines about how to best do that would be helpful.
Yes, and lawmakers could be pulled in, and people outside of that institution could be pulled in for a solution. This is wonderful. I know that quite a few things are necessary for the children to have a good experience in their education. So that's an excellent example. Do we have any other volunteers?
I'll
Okay,
go.
so
Go ahead. I'm in history, so I personally believe that history is inherently interdisciplinary because you can specialize in one thing. Like I specialize in politics and mass movements, but that you look at, the actual facts of what happened when, but then you look at pop culture, you look at economics, you look at literature, and its history touches everything. So having having people understand that and know that history is not just dead white men and what they did and the battles that they fought is incredibly helpful. And for people to understand that history is, it's quantitative and qualitative. It just depends on how you approach it.
Thank you, Anne. That's excellent. That's wonderful. I know that sometimes people try to find their ancestry, change their names because their names were changed, and they try to go back to their roots. So it involves sometimes linguistics and definitions of words and semantics. So it's a very complex discipline. So it lends itself to a lot of interdisciplinary work. So thank you. We all know what interdisciplinary entails, and I wrote a few ideas here: active learning, critical and creative thinking, positive change inside and outside the classroom, positive change within the institution and the communities around, tools against disillusionment caused by the silos of academic fields. Students have this idea that the academia is totally separated from real life, and it has absolutely no use, that they'll experience real life after they get their education if they don't see interdisciplinarity, and move beyond borrowing theory from other fields and engaging deeply with the concepts. And this is how we cultivate thinkers, leaders, and citizens. And as we all know, the roots of interdisciplinarity can be traced to John Dewey's philosophy of education. He emphasizes experiential learning that engages the intellect and the emotion, the practical application, and the reflective thought. So contemporary scholars like Patrick Caton et al. Have demonstrated how interdisciplinary can truly transform values, not only people, but values, institutional and personal. So all these experiences, all the interdisciplinary experiences help students use their ability to think critically, solve problems creatively, and evaluate complex challenges. As Michelle Everett observes, interdisciplinary learning develops the skills that are most valued in society, both by employers and citizens: problem solving, critical thinking, civic mindedness, moral judgment and integrity, effective collaboration and communication. So it's important to keep our students engaged in interdisciplinary work. So today, the main point is to talk about this course that I developed a few years ago, and I keep polishing it. And because I'm attending different interdisciplinary conferences, and I'm reading, and I'm seeing student reactions to the course. So it's an undergraduate 16-week course that is offered only to juniors and seniors, and I integrate historical perspectives with opportunities for the students to apply their disciplinary expertise, recognize multifaceted connections that shape transformative work. The course is grounded in the Catholic social teaching and the Benedictine traditions, the hallmarks. So community stewardship, hospitality, and love of our others. These are the anchors. The core methods are reading, reflection, peer discussions, and civic projects. It's a seminar, so there's a lot of talk. The way I do things, I begin the course by asking the students some things that seem to be uncomfortable to them, to impress upon them how important is to think about change, because we are very uncomfortable with change. So one of the first things that I ask them on the very first day after I tell them how excited I am about the course is to cross their arms. And then they do, and then I wait for a few seconds, and then I say, cross them the other way. And they don't even know how to do it. And that's uncomfortable. I said, yes, it's a change you're not used to. And then I have them change seats, go into a different part of the classroom. And then I finally put them in a circle, and I say, I told them that it's dignified to see each other. I don't like the setup of the typical classroom where there are rows and people see the back of other people. So we sit in a circle when we have class discussions, and all the discussions are organized around 6 major thematic areas: civil rights, race, and nations, Age, Gender, and Rights, Migration and Food Systems in a Global Context, The Arts and Human Well-Being, Discipline, Devotion, and Ritual, and Destructive Leadership and Moral Failure. These themes invite students to analyze social, cultural, and ethical questions through an interdisciplinary lens. By engaging in these topics, they examine how different fields such as history, literature, psychology, theology, political science, and environmental studies contribute to understanding of complex processes of change. So the course emphasizes awareness, inquiry, and civic advocacy within and beyond the classroom. They investigate issues such as the Native and Indigenous communities, civil rights movements, the impact of institutionalization on children, food insecurity, which is very high, pollution, and ethical implications of technology. So the course aligns with the Benedictine tradition and challenges students to reflect on the nature of global citizenship and to engage civically through personal and collective acts of service to the common good. The goal is to inspire them to view education as a catalyst for transformation and to envision how their discipline and the perspective of other disciplines can help build more compassionate societies. So the first unit is Civil Rights, Race, and Nation. This immerses students in both historical and contemporary contexts. And we begin with Chief Joseph's I Will Fight No More Forever, the speech that he delivered in 1877. Documentaries about the Native American boarding schools, which feature firsthand accounts of survival, resilience, and cultural identity. And students study rhetorical strategies such as ethos and logos through historical information about the Trail of Tears and its over 5,000 miles across 9 states, and explore enduring consequences of forced displacement. I also told them about the boarding school in Arizona. They find out that the Indian School Road is called that way in Phoenix because of the boarding school location there at some point that was closed in the 60s or 70s. To connect learning with lived experiences, I introduced students to the Heard Museum in Phoenix, which houses both traditional and contemporary Native art, exhibits on boarding schools, and more. These exhibits and narratives highlight not only hardships, but also agency through the stories of the first Native American teachers, for example, or even the emergence of the Native American pageants as acts of self-definition and pride. Furthermore, they also learn about scholarship opportunities for Native Americans, which always surprises me that they are unaware of, such as Chief Manuelito, and they hear about it for the first time in my class. We then studied 2 towering figures of civil rights history, Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela, whose contrasting methods of peaceful and militant resistance, respectively, invite discussions about ethics and efficacy of different forms of protest. So students analyze how leadership, context, and conviction shape moral and strategic choices for those who seek to transform their society. In Age, Gender, and Rights, students learn about the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, the Declaration of the Rights of Man, and the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights. We problematize them, seeing what countries signed the Declaration of the Human Rights. We know that they don't respect the human rights. And then we move to more. And before I move to more, I would like to ask you to take care of yourself. Some of the material that follows may be difficult or triggering. And if you start feeling uncomfortable, please take a moment for yourself and do what feels right to care for your well-being. So I connect their lived experience with a BBC documentary about Bulgaria's abandoned children, which chronicles the extent to which abuse can happen on the children. This is a powerful portrayal of neglect, resilience, and urgent need for systemic reform. The film makes them cry. I ask them to read it during the day, during daylight, to eat well before they do that, and to have a box of Kleenex by them. And I tell them to write down, I tell them we owe those children to know their names, to know what happened to them. And when they describe the events, that I want them to call them by their name, because name is related to identity. They're very moved, and we talk about this enables more talk about, for example, certain actions that make people brag. They visit orphanages for a week or so. It's called tourism, orphanage tourism, that harms children more than helps them. They first argue against me and they say, no, but people who go there, they are the only ones who teach them love. And I say, yes, that's true. What else do they teach them? The lesson that they teach them is that they're not good enough, they're not adequate enough, and they will always be abandoned. So they repeat the violence, the emotional violence that someone already did to them. So these are very good life lessons that sometimes they take to their parents, their churches, and other institution outside of the university. After the Bulgaria's abandoned children, we talk about violence against women. Students learn about this horrific practice of female genital mutilation or cutting, and to combat it, we talk about activists to show that there are people who fight against it. We balance this out. And I also mentioned the US federal law strengthening the opposition to female genital mutilation that makes it a federal crime, not only in the US, but for those who transport minors outside of the US for FGM. These texts illuminate tensions between cultural relativism, human rights, advocacy, and international law. Students know how to do activism, how to become more involved in things, and they see issues through the lenses of anthropology, ethics, political science, and theology. And they ask what it means to defend human rights and human dignity while respecting cultural difference. So this is a good unit that links historical analysis with sometimes literary interpretation, psychological research, and policy evaluation that students feel very fulfilled with. They feel encouraged to ask questions and to see what assumptions underlie social norms. They develop nuanced understandings of justice, compassion, and responsibility. And they tell me, why is it that we don't know these things? And I said, well, I don't know. It depends on what you read, but it makes me feel good that I'm teaching you something you don't know. So I have to use some humor also, although the topics are very hard. Another unit, From Fields to the Table, Labor Migration and the Food System in a Global Context, we investigate food production and distribution and food waste. We go over people who have an important contribution and transformative leadership and activism, such as Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, and we read some core texts by them. And I also remind them that Huerta's rally implies "Si se puede," yes, it can be done, has been used by other people, but she is the one who created it. That anchors the class in discussions on perseverance, moral courage in the face of systemic inequity. Then we broaden globally, the discussion globally through Devereaux's violation of farm workers' labor rights in apartheid South Africa. Then we go to Sarius et al., Maybe It's Still Good. This is a way for students to explore mechanisms and failure embedded in food hierarchy. And Rattle et al. Is a work that invites students to think critically about the relationship between climate change, land use, and human mobility. I also bring in a person from the Mesa City Sustainability and Environmental Department, and my students, I will talk later about a photo project that they do. The person at the Mesa Sustainability encourages them to create these projects and send them to decision makers to enact change. She also tells my students that 2 high school students and 1 university student created a $10 million sustainability project. So I tell my students, I ask them sometimes, do you think you can make change? And they say, no, I'm too small. And I tell them, you are wrong, and here's why. You'll see what the guest speaker is telling us. Then After that, we introduced the role of technology with the Tales Group analysis of Singapore, the world's smartest city. That scares my students all the time. And we discussed the ethical implication of highly technologized, highly centralized approaches to urban and resource management, equity and environmental outcome. And they also do some research on the World Economic Forum related to global food systems. They also learn when we talk about food waste, they have to talk about what they do and their food habits, and they cultivate critical awareness and moral imagination. I tell them, because I was part of a group that participated in some city actions and city meetings, I learned that 60% of the Mesa High School students do not have enough to eat and receive food from school, and that several of them join our university. And I tell them, this is why we have a food pantry. So I teach them how to advocate for a more equitable food system. And I'm sorry, this moves me to tears, because one of my students almost fainted when she before delivering an oral presentation. And I asked her what happened, and she said, I have not eaten in 2 days. And she's one of my Mesa High School students who came here. So sorry. Unit 4 brings arts and health together, and we show the integration of science and art through Leonardo da Vinci. We talk about non-physical intimate violence in relationships that students need to be aware of. I bring a speaker from the Life Center who is a practitioner, knows more than I do on the topic, and is there to give my students advice and counsel them. I've had students who remove their family members from bad situations and remove themselves from bad situations because of that. And we also, and then we talk about Florence Nightingale and other things. But I'm moving faster because I want to get to my assignments. So in discipline, devotion, and ritual, I bring together religiosity and sports. Quite a few of my students are athletes, so we talk about what they have in common: ritualized repetition, self-denial, pursuit of perfection or excellence within a community, and they really enjoy those. And the last unit is about destructive leadership and moral failure. Similar to the failure that I discussed in my why we need interdisciplinarity story about the launch, the failed launch. So this unit undertakes the examination of the complex mechanisms of power, charismatic persuasion, institutional evasion, and scientific cruelty that facilitated catastrophic human action on a global scale in the 20th century. So students engage with working on charisma, writing Hitler's biography, with Bruno Holliwa and Michael Marmer's The Eyes of the Angel of Death, ophthalmic experiments of Josef Mengele, with Peter Lee Hiroshido's War Crimes, Responsibility, the Unrepentant Emperor. And the final, there's another text that they engage with, Johnny Eppinga's Forgiveness, the Key to Self-Healing. This introduces the vital counter-narrative that shifts the focus from the perpetrator's moral failure to the victim's path toward recovery and reconciliation. This reveals the psychological and ethical process of confronting profound moral inquiry and the mechanism of healing. It encourages students to consider forgiveness not as an absolution of the wrongdoer, but as a critical act of agency and self-liberation that allows the survivor to reclaim her power. And this leads to other topics of rape and other bad things that can happen and sometimes have happened to my students. And we talk about ways to healing. So it's a very, very good unit that creates a lot of discussion and engages students fully. So now I'm going to address 3 of the assignments that I like to work on with the students. Throughout the years, as I said, I have perfected them, tweaked them, and I do hope that you will make suggestions. I invite my students into their education all the time, but I also invite colleagues, and you are my colleagues, so I would really appreciate your suggestions. So one of them is a photo essay and proposal for a sustainable community. What the students do, and I will switch now from my PowerPoint to a Word document so you can see the assignment better, because I have just very little there. Can you see my Word document? Okay, thank you. So this invites students to, basically they have to go into a community, and I ask them if some of their colleagues don't have a car, they should carpool, and I give them the rules. Never take pictures of children, never take pictures of people. If you're close to them, be very far away. Make sure that you don't look suspicious, and never take pictures when you drive. So they have to look at the neighborhood, and they have to see the neighborhood through social, environmental, ethical, and aesthetic inquiry. And they have to document the sustainable and unsustainable aspects of that community. And they select 4 to 6 photographs that tell a story. Then the story needs to be done from multiple disciplines, and I give them options, at least 3 disciplines. Sociological, and the question is, what do the images suggest about the people, relationships, and social structures? So what are the markers of? Is it an welcoming, higher socially or economically neighborhood? Is it more encouraging to a specific race? What is it about the neighborhood that you can tell? What markers you can tell about? Then environmental study, signs of sustainability and environmental neglect, and they are amazed at how, when they take pictures even of their own neighborhood, they tell me, I see more. Why is it that I didn't see this? I didn't see all these things that don't work. And I told them it's because you come with an emotional lens to it. You don't see it objectively. It's your home. Then another lens is economic. What resources, industries, or inequalities are visible in the physical landscape? Cultural and aesthetic, what symbols, murals, or architectural styles define the community's character? And ethical, what responsibilities do individuals and institutions have toward improving this environment? So what I have them do is think about who has the moral and or legal duty to make a change, because they will write a proposal that they have to send to a decision maker. And I have some forms that they have ways to identify the decision maker. So then after they take the photographs, they have to reflect on how their academic discipline and the collaboration of other fields could contribute to addressing the issues. They have to do a storytelling part with a class presentation and the interdisciplinary analysis. They have a PowerPoint presentation, and in about 5 minutes, they have to tell the story of sustainability and transformation, what problem they need to change. And I have prompts for them, why they select those photographs, what community markers they see, how do the insights from at least 2 different disciplines can help them understand the challenges, what actions can be taken by them, by local leaders, community organizations to address the issues, how might their skills, their education, and disciplinary perspective contribute to creating positive change. This gives them a tool that gives them a way to see what their possibilities and their limitations might be. The third part is a written proposal where they do research and analysis and persuasion. So in a 1 to 2 page proposal, they address a local decision maker, a community leader, a city official, an organization director, a university president, and I've had a few of those too. And the students sat down with our president. He gave them half an hour to debate, to discuss a problem that the president ended up solving. So the proposal, I asked them to identify the key physical and social assets of the community. To start, I told them to use the sandwich. Start with something good, bring the problem, and then end with, if we solve the problem, what is the good after that? Then they describe the change, the proposal, the solution that they have, and they have to explain why it is necessary. They have to include a cost-benefit analysis, and I told them it has to be detailed and cited. So whatever sources they use, they have to show this costs this much, this costs this much. And if they don't have an exact, let's say, costs, they have to find other sources that did the same or a similar project where they have some cost and that they guesstimate. They also have to think critically about this because they have to anticipate counter proposals. This will give them the idea of why they still have a good point to make. And they have to refute it using evidence and reasoning. And I tell them, sometimes the decision makers, you have to know your decision makers. Sometimes they value the financial side. Other times they value the ethical side. So either they look at the money, or they look at the votes, or they look at other things. You have to have ethos, logos, pathos. You have to incorporate all of the rhetorical strategies that you can incorporate, and rely on the one that the decision maker will probably listen to the most. But don't hesitate to include all of them. So their conclusion has to go over how the change will enhance the community's sustainability, the cohesion, and the quality of life. So this is, I give them examples, but I tell them this is not an exhaustive list. If they have other disciplines in mind, they are welcome to use them. We sit down and talk. And to encourage them to really do something to get to move to the advocacy part, I tell them that I add 5% credit to the whole semester grade, not to the project, to their semester grade, if they, after I go over especially their cost benefit analysis and proposal in general, if they send it to a relevant community leader or organization and add me to that email. And I tell them, you may get an answer, you may solve the problem, I don't know, but I want you to try. And if you do, you get 5% after you do the revisions, so that you make a good point and you have all the right sources. So does anyone have a comment or a question about this assignment? Okay. If not, I will move to another project that my students are very surprised about, because they perceive me as sometimes as a very dry, very serious academic that has her nose in books, in real books, not in online books. And with this assignment that I'm very excited about, this is the second year I'm using it. It's an interdisciplinary civic action project, acting for global and local change. Are you familiar with the United Nations Act Now initiative? Is anyone here familiar with it? No? It is a very wonderful, so I can go to the website for a moment before I talk about the assignment. So this is the website that you can use, and it illustrates what kind of actions people have taken, and they show how many actions have been taken in the world. My students get very excited because they think that they cannot do much. And I said, well, individually, no, but look at this number. You will contribute to good actions done by people throughout the world. So they look at all these 4 major areas, and they can track their change. So I can share this with you. I can share the assignment with you if you are interested. But this is what I have them do. I have them basically download the Act Now app, which now it has a different name. So it's A World. So if you look on the website now, it's A World in support of Act Now. And they download it on their app, and I tell them, if you have this little guy here, then you have the correct app. I showed them it's in my assignment. And what they do is they select one or several categories from the action from the UN's platform: a healthy planet, a peaceful world, better economy, a just society, or speak up. And I'll move back to this so you can see them. So these are the major ones that they have. And I tell them that they need to examine how their personal habits and civic engagement connect with complex global systems. And they have to use multiple disciplines. I give them some examples, but these are not all of them. They can think about other ones. and do their work. So, and I show them, I have the app on my phone because I downloaded it quite a few years ago when I started it. And I would like to see if I can pull my app. If I have some time, I will do that. If not, I'll do it at the end if I have time. But anyway, when you download the app, I ask them immediately. First, the first thing to do is to calculate their carbon footprint, and they show me. Some of them are proud of themselves, some of them not so proud. And I say, it's not a matter of what your carbon footprint is what you do when you learn what your carbon footprint is. And as you download the app, after you take the carbon footprint, you have certain areas to select from. And one of the areas, some of the areas is the daily routine. They put in, and I tell them, I'm a very odd European. I'm from Eastern Europe, from Romania originally, in case you were wondering with my accent. And I am one of those people. I turn off the light when I leave the room. I turn it back on when I enter. I charge my phone and my computer only 90%. I take 5-minute showers. I unplug everything but my stove, my huge stove, and my refrigerator, because you have useless consumption that you don't need to make if you don't do all these things. And they are shocked. They told me they take 30-minute showers, and I tell them, we live in Arizona, we cannot afford that. So the daily routine asks, do you use a canvas bag when you go to the grocery store? And other practices, day-to-day things that they learn about, and they realize that they have some bad habits. Do you waste food? Do you eat everything? So it's many questions that they need to put in, and they click on something and they add to it. The app has many quizzes and many reading assignments, short reading assignments. So the assignments come with quizzes. So I told them, you need to read at least 5 sources and take 5 quizzes. They earn gems, they earn points. And then I give the assignment toward the middle of or a little bit before midterms. And I tell them, this is due at the end of the semester. I want you to chronicle your story and the carbon footprint and the changes that you make. And they have to take 10 screenshots to show how they're doing and to observe the ethical implications of their choices. They research and identify 2 organizations or community groups, local or global, that they address the issue that they want to explore in a research paper, and they may engage or join one of these groups. My students created first, they joined a community garden, and then they created a community garden inside of the university to help assuage the food problem that I was mentioning before. So in their interdisciplinary research and written report, 2 to 3 pages, they have to include, they have to integrate personal experience, research, and ethical reflection. They have to give an overview of the issue that they find. So one of my students realized that, I'll give you an example. The issue was the Hass avocado. The Hass avocado is under the strain, let's say, is overseen by the drug cartels. And then we have the ethical question: do we buy the Hass avocados that we like, or do we and support indirectly the cartels, or do we not buy them? And we create another ethical issue. We let the people who work in Hass avocado die of hunger. And because I always try to put things in ethical terms. So I said, which is the choice that we make? And that's, I don't give them the answer. They have to work through it, and they have to make make the choices that they can live with. So the overview have to explain the local and global issue. Like I mentioned, the Hass avocado that my family can buy in Europe. The relevant environmental, social, ethical, and economic dimensions of them. Then their personal contribution, how their participation in using the shots and the data changes their awareness, makes them move toward progress, or puts obstacles in their fostering change. The research component comes with at least 3 credible sources, academic, non-governmental, or NGO-based, that show the causes, consequences, and the solutions to the issue. They have to have an impact assessment with measurable, tangible effects of their actions, both personal and communal. And then they have, because we are at a Catholic institution, they have to also have an ethical and theological reflection. They have to engage with 2 or more of the Catholic social teaching texts that they have access to in our online platform. And they have to end with a call to action to propose specific next steps that individuals, nations, policymakers could take to deepen and expand the impact of the chosen action area. They show empathy, civic awareness, and moral reasoning grounded in global citizenship and human dignity. In a very short roundtable presentation, it's a circle, the whole class, the whole 25 students and I get in a circle. In a very short, semi-formal presentation, they summarize the issue, the interdisciplinary dimension, the personal and collective impact of their participation, and the insights, the lessons that they learned from their engagement in the research. And this makes them always comment on how important they find the class, how engaging they find the class. These are some of the comments in my student evaluations. The class made me develop a passion for the social well-being of our society, for our global and local and global community. Empathy and passion making our community has kept me engaged. As an international student, and having been to 3 different schools and states, I have not really cared about the surrounding community around campuses. Due to this class, I now care. Another one stated, I personally really loved taking this class. It helped me to realize how much I can impact the world and that there is always room to keep learning about the world. It taught me how to use interdisciplinarity when solving societal issues. And I will not bore you with more, but I will go over one more. The course material maintains student engagement throughout the course. This is one of the best courses I have taken during my college experience. So I have the references, and I have a narrative of everything that I said if you're interested. And before we do anything more, I have another assignment that I can share, but I would like us to dedicate some time to brainstorming. And you may want to take a screenshot of this slide, brainstorming a project or a theme that bridges your fields. And you may want to think about what would collaboration look like between your discipline and another? How might your students benefit from this approach? And identify 1 project and 3 measurable student outcomes.
Is it time for the breakout rooms? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, I think it is time for the breakout rooms. And if everyone has taken a screenshot of this, if you show a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or tell me that you have taken the screenshot, we can make sure you go into some rooms with some colleagues and think about these.
Okay.
Brainstorm.
Think.
And if you write these in a Word document, we could share them, and who knows, more interdisciplinary work could come out of this. So please try to write your ideas in a Word document that we could share.
Okay, and I have all the rooms created. There are 3 rooms, and Maria, I'll give you co-hosting privileges so you can go to the rooms.
Thank you. Okay, welcome. Welcome back. I got to hear some of the presenters, some of the people who interacted in the breakout rooms, and I would like you to share what you discussed with everyone so we can learn from each other and see what kind of collaborative actions we can take next. So who would like to begin from the group, from the room 1?
Yes, room 1. We talked about the creation of an assignment that asked students to read a relatively recent Supreme Court decision, which is inherently historical as well as being political. And depending on what it is, of course, it could involve other disciplines, economics, sociology, science, all kinds of things. Let me skip to the third thing first, because then I think that reveals the benefit to students, which is the second thing. And the three measurable outcomes from the assignment would be, first of all, that the students demonstrate an understanding of the case, factual things about the case. What were the legal disputes that the court had to decide? How did the court decide them? What precedents, previous cases, did the court use in deciding them? And then a second thing would be that they were able to use those things to explain the opinions of the justices, explain how the justices used precedent, for example, to write their opinion. And then the third thing would be to have them write themselves a little short op-ed piece that express their view about the court's decision, but using the first two things, using the more factual and historical information that's in the case. So they're not basing their op-ed on nothing. They're basing it on concrete things that are part of the case. And then that way they benefit because they see the connection between the more objective historical and legal information that's covered in a case with the formation of an opinion that is informed by scholarly evidence that is used in the development of court cases, rather than just, this is how I feel, I don't like it that the court decided, or I like it that the court decided because personally that's my ideological view. That instead they're doing it in a more detached, scholarly way.
That's great. I think it's wonderful. It's something very recent, something that people are very polarized on. So, in the outcome, understanding. So they have to first understand what they're talking about, because sometimes I think they come to certain topics from an ideological point of view that doesn't allow them to see the whole picture. So as you mentioned, legal disputes, precedents, forming opinion, all the process, that's great. I think that's wonderful. Thank you, Michael. Room 2?
Talked about how to develop assignments in disciplines that it seems like maybe there isn't a connection to civic engagement, and maybe looking at policy, like a government policy that specifically impacts an aspect of your discipline, education, social work, even economics, construction. You could do it with construction. And if there's a policy you disagree with, how have the students explore how would you go about getting that policy changed. And that way they would look at the policy, its impact on their discipline, and also engage civically by following up with their elected officials and learning the process of how you address those things. And a policy standpoint makes it much more connected to the actual implementation of your skill set. If you're a social worker, you need to know how to change policies that impact your clients. And as a teacher, you need to know how policies are made that impact your students.
Thank you. This is great. Very, very, very good. Very many disciplines could contribute to this. Thank you, Anne. And group 3, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get into the room 3.
So there was no room 3, there's a room 4.
The room 4, sorry.
Was that us?
Yes.
Yes, that was us.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll speak for our group.
Thank you.
So what collaboration would look like reflected the structure of the group. We had a criminal justice person. There was a geography global studies person, political and global affairs person. And Shannon was coming from archaeology, anthropology. And so we thought of the subject of sustainability, where students could have measurable outcomes of looking at how their areas contribute to sustainability in terms of the 3 main aspects of sustainability, which is people, In other words, society, economy, and environment. And so we thought of a project from there as starting a recycling project on campus that can actually translate into a business and take it to the community. And Shannon and Meredith, you can bail me out if I left something out.
Hey, Shannon, do you want to talk about that life history analysis of a product that you're talking about? That's like from archaeology side.
Yeah, so we talked about having an assignment that students could do, that they would go out into campus and pick up an item that had been discarded and that perhaps could have been recycled, that as the recycling aspect of sustainability, and do kind of a life history analysis of that particular item and see where it would have started out, including everything from raw materials to where and how it was manufactured, the regulatory environment of that manufacturing, shipping, that kind of stuff, and then how it gets used, and then how it gets disposed of, and where does it enter the waste stream, and what are the impacts of that. And so that gets us a global perspective, it gets us a temporal perspective, and touches on sort of people and environment and economy, sort of across that board.
Thank you, Shannon and Francis. This is great. These are wonderful ideas that you can really start some work like that. I think that would be great if it could turn into a business that could produce some scholarships for students in sustainability studies or students who are sustainably minded. I think that would be perfect. I will go over just to wrap up what I've what I've heard is that there are so many opportunities of interdisciplinarity. You all do interdisciplinary work. You don't name it sometimes interdisciplinary. You have great ideas of making things go out of your fields. And I think that is the best way for students to see that we do isolate disciplines, but ultimately the disciplines are meant to bring us together and to make us understand the world from multiple perspectives. A few suggestions, if I may make them. Interdisciplinary brown bag lunch events. This is meant for large groups to form smaller groups. We've done that before when we were in need of more interdisciplinary courses. Professors didn't have time, didn't really want to branch out of their fields, and we started with brown bag events, and we formed larger groups and then smaller groups, and then we found ways to collaborate, and we brainstormed ideas like we did today. If you're comfortable with a group you met today and you think something can come out of it, sometimes there are grants you can write based on certain projects. Sometimes outside companies or cities could give you some grants. I know that the reason why I work with the city of Mesa, they have sustainability contests that they give $5,000 to young people to. So the people who I work with and I invite to my classes, they send me flyers and I give them to my students because they have the potential to win a $5,000 project scholarship for a project. Then with the focus groups, you can also, I know that quite a few of you value, and I've heard that you really have enjoyed co-teaching. And co-teaching could show the students not only one person's expertise, but how scholars with various disciplinary viewpoints can come together and teach the students the same thing, but from different perspective, and adopting each other's methodology and sometimes even jargon. Other times, you can use a neutral facilitator, someone from inside the institution or outside, to guide the collaboration with the process. This is probably not the best way because you have done interdisciplinary work. also, if you have in the business program an organization behavior specialist, I've taken a few courses in from that would go toward a master's of science in business. I don't need the master's. I just needed some courses about organization behavior so that I can make my classes better. So if you can either collaborate, have a formal or informal chat with an organization behavior specialist to get more ideas about how to move people to do certain things or to accept certain things, to make some changes, this could drive quite a bit of change, especially if they're also trained in interdisciplinary knowledge. It's better, but if not, you have that interdisciplinary background, they need to help you with some other things related to organizations. I would highly encourage you to attend interdisciplinary conference to offer papers there, projects. You see how some disciplines, they want to engage in interdisciplinarity, and yet they don't know how, and they think that their discipline is better and that it has a better methodology, and they cannot stoop down to other disciplinary approaches. So they still are in a silo, but conferences could help people see that. Collaborate with faculty outside of your college, of liberal arts. It's interesting to me, a medical issue, for example, it could be worked with someone in nutrition, someone in cultural studies, someone in, of course, medical field, anatomy, physiology, and so on, language sometimes. And so I would branch outside of the College of the Liberal Arts, start in the liberal arts, but see outside, sometimes other disciplines have more funding. And teach interdisciplinary courses because these are important. I would also encourage you to collect the data about student enrollment and retention. My student retention with my interdisciplinary classes, it goes up all the time. Students are excited to be in the classes and they tell me, I wish I could learn more of this. So with this, I will open, let's see. Thank you so much for listening and for engaging in all the two polls and the group discussion. And I am ready for questions and answers. And I'm going to write the questions so that I can address them well.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. I think we have a few more minutes, and if anybody has questions, please feel free. Maria, can you tell us a little bit about any challenges that you may have faced while you're designing or delivering the course? Like, did you get, I know the structure of the university supports civic engagement, but did you face any challenges, the students were reluctant to do that, or any other, and how did you address those challenges?
Yeah, this is a very good question because challenges occur no matter what, no matter how well we prepare. The designing of the course, I had to take a whole summer to put a lot of thought into it. And as I said, I've modified it by going to conferences and doing more research. With the delivery, it was a little bit overwhelming and a little bit, let's say, outside of my league, outside of my expertise. So for me, the go-to is the specialists. I have guest speakers from the Native American communities around us, from the Yavapai community, from the Colorado River nations that talk about water dispersal and water rights and whatnot. I have, as I mentioned, the lady from Crystal Kazik from the Life Center with the children and institutionalization and the foster care. I invite, I know the director of Arizona children with who have either mental or physical problems, and they're given up for adoption and they're not always adopted. So my challenge was not to overdo it and think I'm not an expert in how I'm going to do this, but to bring the experts in and rely on their expertise, because I don't know everything that some disciplinary approach will ask me to do. I may not master their methodology as well as I should. Then when I don't, I bring the experts. With issues of psychology, because we talk about the psychological and emotional impact of institutionalization, I collaborated with my colleague who teaches psychology. And with other issues, I collaborated with my colleague in criminology with law and changing of the laws. So the key is not to feel overwhelmed. And you know, the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to create a good course and to have a good report with your students, and to really to have transformative teaching.
Well, thank you. And I want to be respectful of everyone's time, and it's perfect. It's 2:30 on the dot. So thank you everyone for joining us. Please join me in thanking Dr. Granic again. This was very informative. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much. If you need to get in touch with me, Dr. Ghazal knows my email address. If you have some collaborative ideas, I would gladly work with you on them. If you want me to share my assignments, I'll glad, or my let's say the syllabus that I created, I will gladly do that also. Thank you again. Good luck. And I'm really honored that I was able to share my passion for what I do. Have a good day.
Very much. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.